Satya Dharma Reflection on May 11th, 2022. Open up fully. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind, inside and outside already exist. Open up in the way of disregarding fully. How can there be any composure of the mind? The body-mind is anicca and dukkha and anatta. How can there be any maintaining? Any state of mind is anicca in itself, is anatta in itself, is meaningless in itself. It doesn't grasp itself as it is. How can there be any composure of the mind? Open up in the way that doesn't grasp itself. Open up in the way that is disregarding within itself, opening up without grasping itself. Even disregarding doesn't grasp itself. When there is disregarding, then there is no grasping already. The disregarding means non-attachment. There is no fixation. It doesn't mean that one doesn't grasp something. It means that it is the non-attachment actually. Therefore, disregard all the same. There is no complications here at all. Opening up in the way of disregarding is not in the way of sightseeing, in the way wanting to know, to see. This is not opening in the way of having the urge to see, to know. Opening up in the way of disregarding, in the way of discarding. This is not about drowning, maintaining. Why maintaining or thinking in anything is anicca and dukkha. Why being obsessed with giving significance and meanings and involvement? Disregard that is not relevant to itself. Open up eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind. Well to open up. The composure itself is the composure of the suffering. Why composing the anicca has to be in the way of disregarding instantly. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, for the anicca, dukkha and anatta, this is not to compete with stillness or indifference. The attempt to be still and indifference is anicca, dukkha, anatta, all the same. Don't be obsessed to create any states of mind or giving significance and meanings to the states of mind or any conditions. There are no complications at all. Disregard that doesn't grasp itself, while falling in stillness is the realms of existence. The disregard is not itself. The disregard doesn't grasp itself altogether with everything. The disregard is not relevant to itself, is uninvolved with itself. What is there that is difficult here? Open up, just open up the senses and sense perceptions. Don't compose it. Don't entrap it. Don't control it. Don't oppress it. This is not the system of entrapment of suffering. In the way of unwinding, discarding itself, just disregard even from the disregard itself. The disregard is not about anything within itself. This is not the system of entrapping the suffering. It's not the system of composure of the anicca. Every state is the anicca. Even the composure itself is anicca. To compose the anicca with the anicca, what does it mean? This is even worse than being stupid. The composure is anicca. That which is composed is also anicca. To compose anicca from the anicca to the anicca is the desire that is integrating. Being deluded to the formed up, to the concoction. Being deluded to integrate itself by oneself. No is not even know itself. Then it will not be about anything within anything all by itself. Not to be the samudaya, fabricating, practicing. This is not to be obsessed with samudaya in practices. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, naturally it will not be about anything within anything. This will not become causes of suffering and the suffering itself. In other words, is the samudaya. The disregard is not itself. The disregard is uninvolved with itself. The disregard is not itself. Opening up without grasping it. Open up eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind fully. Don't control it. Controlling what? Anicca, dukkha, anatta. What is it to be controlled? The control itself is the desire, is the samudaya itself. It's not about anything and anything. Why being obsessed to give meaning and significance to it? Why being composed? What is there that is composing? Is the desire itself. Being obsessed to give meaning and significance and involvement. It's not about anything and anything. Even the disregard is not itself. Even the uninvolved is not about anything within itself. Even disregard is not itself. Simultaneously with the opening of eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind, inside and outside. Cutting deluded knowing and the blessing is simultaneous. The non-attachment and the blessing is simultaneous, proceeding simultaneously. It will give the purification of the attributes of the samudaya, the attributes of significance and meanings within body and mind, inside and outside. This is the habit of the samudaya. Even disregarding is not itself. Even the non-attachment is not itself. No is not even know itself. Nothing is within know itself. This will purify the way of the samudaya totally. It will seize the way of the samudaya, all that giving significance and meanings and involvement within something. This is the ways of the samudaya. Samudaya is both the cause of suffering and the suffering itself. The cause itself is the suffering within itself. In conclusion, the cause is the suffering and the suffering is the same thing. The causes itself is the suffering within itself. There is no need to separate it. Being obsessed to give meanings and significance, that is the suffering and the causes in itself. Significance and meanings to the body and the mind, to any state of mind, to any attributes, to stillness or not, to indifference or not. This is the overlaying of the samudaya totally. That's why it becomes realm of existence that follows afterwards. Therefore, the word realms of existence is the special karmic payback zone at large. To pay back of the karmic retributions. That is the realm of existence. The true realm of existence is the special karmic payback zone at large. Well with it, well with the essence. Disregard is not about anything within itself. Know that is not even know itself. To be obsessed with the delusion to reject, there is the samudaya overlaying here. To be obsessed with something that attempt to reject, to know, this is the overlaying of the samudaya. Even disregarding is not itself, not about anything within the disregard itself. Know is not even know itself. Then there will not be only about the desire and samudaya overlaying eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind. Overlaying greatly within all things, within all elements, overlaying within all Dharma. There are just desire, delusion and delusive attachment that overlays without disregarding itself. Therefore, it doesn't give ending to the samudaya. Without disregarding, it will not give ceasing to the samudaya. disregard even from the disregard itself. This will give ending to the origin of the samudaya, the origin of the worldlings, the beingness of the worldlings. The disregard is not itself. This will be through disregarding, through non-attachment. True non-attachment is not about attempting to non-attach. That is the samudaya overlaying when there is an attempt to non-attached. Nothing is within the non-attachment itself. That is true non-attachment. That is non-attachment of the essence, by the essence of its nature. Open up fully. The habits of covering up but for the sake of oneself will be dissolved. So open up fully. Opening up in the way that is not about anything within the disregarding. Nothing within the non-attachment. Opening up in the way that is not about anything within attachment or non-attachment. Opening up in the way of disregarding that is not the disregarding itself. Open up fully while sitting here preserving anything, preserving having values within body and mind or any state, being deluded to create realm of existence. Unwinding discard itself as such. Disregard even from the disregard itself. Why being obsessed to practice anything? Why being obsessed to deludedly practicing anything? Open up fully. Senses and sense perceptions has its awakening in its nature already, being composing until drowning totally. Senses already opening. There is the awakening in its nature already, and the awakening doesn't grasp itself either. The disregard that is uninvolved with itself simultaneously with the opening of the senses and sense perceptions, so that it will not become drowsiness and sinking. The disregard is not anything within itself simultaneously with all the opening of the senses and sense perceptions. This will purify all the preservation of all the sunken states, being drowsy. Continue to proceed in a way that is not about anything within the disregarding, simultaneously with the awakening and the brightening of the senses and sense perceptions. The brightening will be simultaneous for both internally and externally. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind that is already awakening within itself. Disregard even from the disregard itself simultaneously with awakening of the senses. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself simultaneously with the brightening of all the senses and sense perceptions inside and outside is brightened out. Penetrate through all the senses and sense perceptions, not in a way of circling and being preoccupied. Sense perceptions are brightened out internally and externally, not in the way of altogether being preoccupied with themselves. Disregard even from the disregard itself simultaneously with the brightening. Simultaneously with the awakening and brightening. This is not about the senses and sense perceptions joining in together in the way of circling within themselves. Disregard even from the disregard itself simultaneously with the awakening and the brightening through the senses and sense perceptions. This is greatly breaking through of the Anupap. The disregard doesn't grasp itself simultaneously with awakening and the brightening. Proceed onwards as such. the awakening of the senses, both awakening and the brightening of all senses and sense perceptions. Purify through the extinction and emptiness simultaneously, disregard even from the disregard itself to be proceeded simultaneously. The disregard is not itself, it's not about anything within the disregard itself, then it will be true disregarding. It will be true non-attachment, it will give ending to the circling, to the preoccupation. Naturally, it will not become a whirlpool of preoccupation. There will not be an obsession to give meaning and significance and involvements naturally. Disregard even from the disregard itself well, then naturally there will be no giving significance and meanings and involvements, not to become samutai all by oneself. Without disregarding, there is no ending. Being deluded to practice on and on, becoming samsara on and on, endlessly.